In this video, I'll do my predictions for round 4 of the Rugby World Cup. Check it out. Welcome back to SkinnyBru Rugby, guys. So it's round 4 of the Rugby World Cup, and this week we have 12 games lined up. It's South Africa versus Canada, Argentina against USA, Scotland and Russia, Wales, Fiji, Australia versus Georgia, New Zealand and Italy. Then it's the big one, England versus France, which I'll also do a special video for. Ireland versus Samoa, Namibia and Canada, which could be an interesting game for that wooden spoon spot, or to avoid that wooden spoon. Then it's USA against Tonga for their second game of the week. Wales against Uruguay, their second game of the week as well for Wales. And then Japan versus Scotland, which would be a massive one for that Pool A. The special videos that I will do this week will be South Africa versus Canada, England versus France, and Japan versus Scotland. So you can find all of them up here as soon as they are out. Otherwise, if you want to check out all the specific games, down in the comments below, I do leave a time tag for each one of them. Just before I get into the games for the SkinnyBru so far, in the predictions, we have a new leader. Talon is leading. Second place, Stormer 2010. Then Rikus in third place. The fantasy teams, it is Yankee, Toffee, Mitch, and then RL Key 888, who is still over there. Okay, let's get into the games, and just before I get into it, remember to hit subscribe if you do like the content on my channel. First up, it is the Springboks versus Canada, and I have a special video lined up for that one. As soon as it is out, you can find it linked up there. It's only the third game for Canada in this World Cup, while South Africa is going for their fourth and final group stage game. Canada, their first game, they lost by 41 points to Italy. Then a 63-0 loss to New Zealand. They failed to get on the scoreboard, so they will be hurting after that one. Look, Canada has been dangerous on the counter-attack. They showed that against New Zealand of all teams. When they get that ball after a knock-on or so, they can run and actually do devastating things to the team if they don't have the defensive structures in place. But the scrums of the Canadians have been struggling. For the Springboks, they've had some interesting picks this week. They have Brits back at number 2. Kulisi is starting this game. Reinach is finally getting a start. Then the center pairing is Frankenstein and De Allende, which is quite an interesting one. Both of them generally inside centers. Nkosi switches to the left wing. The first time ever we'll see him there. Galant on the right wing. I also haven't seen him play on the wing much. He's more of a fullback. And then Damian Willemse, who was flown out last week Thursday, is playing a fullback. The Springbok team is quite a bit of an experimental team, but the game should be won comfortably if you look at it realistically. So I think South Africa will win by 48 points. Next up, we have Argentina against USA. Argentina, they are officially out of the Rugby World Cup, but they would want to end well after really misfiring this World Cup, and they looked just before it to actually impress. So they would want to prove what they can do against the USA. The United States, on the other hand, they will hope to just have a good game, a moral boosting game against the Pumas, especially because they can swoop in like an eagle and snatch a victory over here if the Argentinians are down and out and they are a little bit in a slump. The USA's first game was a 45-7 loss to England, and then a 33-9 loss to France. And France and Argentina are on similar levels, so you would expect something similar in this game as well. For Argentina, they have 3 games down. It's their last one now. They lost against England and France. They only beat Tonga by 16 points, but I still think they will win by 21 points in this game. Then it is Scotland versus Russia. The Russian Bears, they have impressed pretty much in this World Cup. Even though they have had 3 losses so far, they don't really lie down for the other teams just to trample over them. They do actually put up a fight. For Scotland, this is their third game. They lost to Ireland by 24 points and then beat Samoa by 34 points in the next week. So you would expect more or less something similar of a score than they got against Samoa. The back line for Scotland was pretty dangerous against Samoa, but the Russians also have a pretty dangerous back line. Guys like Vasily Artemyev, or if I say that correctly, he's announced himself on this World Cup, the captain for the Russians. They really have some guys that could put up a fight and really pounce on the mistakes of the Scots. But I do still think the Scots will win by 20 points. Wales against Fiji. It is the third game for Wales. They beat Georgia by 29 points and then Australia by 4 points. While the Fijians, this is their last chance to prove they are giant killers and they could beat a big team after their disappointing World Cup they've had so far. They lost to Australia by 18 points and then to Uruguay in the next week by 3 points. No one expected that one, but they did beat Georgia in the next week by 35 points. Wales, they do look strong though. They are contenders for the World Cup, and guys contending for the World Cup realistically should win this one comfortably. So I think Wales will win by 23 points just because I think the Fijians will put up a fight still. Australia versus Georgia. Both sides are playing their last game in this World Cup. The Australians only lost against Wales, but further they've been promising throughout the competition. But their 9-10 combo, we still don't really know who is the ideal pick, who is their first choice. So that is impacting their game a little bit. For the Georgians, they will want to leave their mark on another big team. They scored 2 tries against Wales, which was impressive. Really putting up their hand. A lot of people are still talking about them maybe joining the Six Nations. The forwards for the Georgians are strong, but I still think Australia will win by 28 points. Then it is New Zealand versus Italy. It's both teams' last game in the group stages, and New Zealand, they have done exactly what we've expected, 3 from 3 thus far. And the Italians, they are coming from the back of a very disappointing loss by 46 points to South Africa. The game saw 2 props being injured, 2 props being suspended for 3 weeks, so I don't really know who is going to scrum for them this week. Maybe they've sorted something out, but you can expect Sergio Parise's guys to come back firing and just prove what they can do. They are capable of doing more than they showed up there. They have a good forward pack, but how the prop thing is going to influence it is going to be interesting. But is it good enough to get their first victory ever against New Zealand? I doubt it. For the New Zealanders, they have had 2 games in a row where they won by more than 60 points. So that back line is really gelling. Doesn't matter who they are shuffling around where. The Italians might put up a fight, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think New Zealand will win by 34 points. Next up, it is a very big one. England versus France. It's another game that I have a special video for. As soon as it is out, you can find it linked up there. Both teams, they've had 3 victories thus far in the World Cup. For England, it was 32 points over Tonga, 38 points over USA, and then 29 points over Argentina. Then France, they've had less of a convincing season so far. It was 2 points to Argentina, 24 to USA, and then 2 points this last weekend against Tonga. Tonga really put up a fight. So if you look at that margins of victory, it puts them pretty similar to Tonga and Argentina at the moment. Usually it looks like that. So you can think of England probably beating them by about 30 points, but it really depends on what France shows up. They are a team that really, one game they are very good, one game they are really bad. You never know what's gonna go on, but at World Cups they do have the tendency of only coming up with great performances at quarterfinal stages. You know they have a big victory in them. They can beat big teams always, but they are already through to the quarterfinals, so they could be thumped in this one. You don't know if they are going to pitch up, but they could really turn it on now and get into the quarterfinal gears and show up completely differently. But I still think England will win by 19 points. Next up, it is Ireland versus Samoa, and Pool A is still very much alive, so Ireland really needs that bonus point if they want to continue. It's the last game for the Samoans in the World Cup, and if they want to accomplish anything, it will be something like blocking them from getting a bonus point or something along those lines. But I do think because Ireland really needs it, I think they will win by 34 points. Then it is a big game for a completely different reason. Namibia versus Canada. It is the game to avoid that wooden spoon in their pool and for them just to get a win in this World Cup. So you can really expect a epic battle between this team, especially because Canada is ranked at 22nd place in the world rankings and Namibia in 23rd. So they are very evenly matched. They both had big losses behind their names, but for them it will be all about showing up now. Both teams, they have struggled at scrum times, their lineouts haven't been that great, and one thing the Namibians could count on maybe is Canada playing 2 games in this week, the one against South Africa on Tuesday. Both backlines have the potential to show up. Canada, especially on the counter attack, is dangerous, but Namibia, they've at times really played a very good kicking game, so I'd like to see what they do over there. I'm gonna trust my gut, even though a lot of people are backing the Canadians. I think it's time for the Namibians to get their first ever Rugby World Cup victory by 2 points. USA versus Tonga. It will be USA's first game where they actually feel they are matched up against a side that they could have a victory against, but it is USA's second game in the week, so they might struggle. USA is ranked higher than Tonga, 13th, and then Tonga is on 16th, so on paper they are a little bit better, but the Tongans, they've really pitched up this World Cup. They've really put up their hands. They've had great games. I mean, that 2-point loss to France in the previous week, they must be favorites at the moment. They have been playing really good. So I think this Tongan side are a little bit better at the moment. I think Tonga will win by 9 points. Then it is Wales versus Uruguay. Wales are clear favorites for this one. Uruguay, they've been nothing like that first game they had against Fiji. For Wales, it's the second game in this week, but I do think they can perform. Even though it is maybe their second team playing, they are still good enough. I think Wales will win by 46 points. Then the last one will be very important in their pool, Japan versus Scotland. In the context of Pool A, it's so important. As it stands at the moment, Scotland is out. I can imagine the pool would probably look like this at the end of this week. Ireland at 16 points, Japan at 14 points, and then Scotland at 10 points. So at this moment when these two teams play, it will be very important to get a bonus point victory for Scotland, or if they get a normal victory, it has to be by a margin of more than 36 points. So it is a massive victory required from Scotland to go to the quarterfinals. For Japan, they worked really hard to get into this position after beating Ireland. And a victory here will put them at the top of the pool. If they do win, they will face South Africa in the quarterfinals. Get second place, they will face New Zealand, which will probably be one they would be a little bit more scared of. The game will be close. I think it could go either way, really. But I don't think Scotland have it in them to get a bonus point against Japan. But who wins this game will still be important in the context of the pool, in who gets first and second place. But I do think Japan will win by 9 points. And then ultimately top the pool and then face South Africa in the quarterfinals. Remember, there is a special video for this game, so if you want to check that out, it is linked up here. If you did like this video, guys, please hit the subscribe button. I do appreciate it, or check out some of my other content. Cheers.